everybody, I'm Viki with Just a Little Dessert Company, and today I am going to show you how to make this really cool isomalt geode cake topper. Looks just like the real thing, looks really difficult to do, but it's actually quite easy. So first I'm going to get started by showing you all of the different supplies you're going to need, starting with your isomalt. So any small pot will do, and your isomalt crystals, you can purchase those on Amazon. So your isomalt here, and I've poured it into the pot, and just enough to maybe halfway full, and you're going to try to use distilled water, and all I've done is just moistened it a little bit, just a little bit. It doesn't have to cover the isomalt, you're just kind of giving it a little something to get started while it's cooking. So you have that, you have your rock sugar. Just start with your plain white rock sugar, and what we're going to do is we're going to color it with our purple color. I have an electric purple from Americolor. You can use whatever purple you like, whatever gives you the effect that you want. You put your white rock sugar in a large bowl. You take a couple drops of your purple color, put it in your bowl, and you just by hand mix it up, and so that all the little candy sugar pieces are evenly coated. And you can add color to make it, I've got it a little bit darker, and then, you know, a little bit lighter here. What you're trying to do is get the different gradations of color. So you're starting with your dark, goes a little bit lighter, and then it has the white around it. So that's the objective. You've got your rock sugar, then you need a little bit of shortening. And what that's for is you're going to coat your cutters here. I have two oval cutters, a large one and a smaller one, and they're going to nest inside each other like that. And these are going to act as our molds for when we pour our cooked isomalt. A round cutter, and this is going to be for your base that your geode is going to stand on. Same rough size, about 3 inches. You need a silicone mat, a candy thermometer, and these other items here are just little decorative items that we're going to use when we finish the piece. Your gold highlighter, you can use an edible or a non-edible, depending on what type of, how you're going to use your piece. I've chosen to use the non-edible gold highlighter just because I like the look that this particular gold has. It's very shiny, very brilliant, and I know that this is just going to be a display piece, so I'm not overly concerned about if it's edible or not. And then I just have a little brush to paint the gold on with, a little dish to get my gold, and then I'm also going to use the lemon extract to moisten it, and that'll act as my paint. I've got some purple luster dust and purple disco dust, and those are all just little accents that we can use once the piece is finished, and we're going to highlight and finish it off that way. So I think that is it. We're going to get started at the stove and get this cooking about medium high, and you're going to let this cook up to 300 degrees. So you just make sure your candy thermometer is in there. It's in the isomalt itself, not resting above it, and you are watching for 300 degrees. I've put a cover over this. It just kind of helps keep the heat in and lets the process move along a little bit faster, but you don't have to use a lid, and you don't do anything, you just let this sit and cook. So just, that's basically it. You know, the temperature is just going to creep up. Once it gets to about 295, you need to be ready with a pot holder, because this does get very hot unless you have one of those neat pans that doesn't get hot on the handle. And you're going to get ready to bring it over at that point and have all your supplies ready to pour and set up. Okay, so we have our molds here resting on top of our silicone mat, and in order to make sure that the isomalt isn't going to stick to these molds, I'm just going to take my shortening and really coat the edges of these really well. And I'm just doing this while my sugar is cooking. I can kind of hear it bubbling in the background. But I'm just keeping an eye on the temperature. It's at 230 right now. So you want to make sure that these are really well coated. You kind of can't overdo it. It's better to have a little bit too much grease on there than not enough. It is a pain to try and get the sugar out when it's stuck solid. So there you have it. We're going to pour, once the sugar's ready, we're going to pour our base, and then we're going to pour just inside these two ovals, so in between the two of them. And one thing else I wanted to point out is make sure that when you're working with your sugar, you are using these fancy gloves to protect yourself. Sugar is incredibly hot and does not feel good on your skin. So please make sure that you have a pair of gloves to work with. Sugar is ready, and just carefully pour into my mold. It's going to be super hot, and you're just covering the bottom there. And like I said, on this oval one, you're just going in between the two ovals. And in order to not waste all of the isomalt that you just cooked, I've set my oven at 300 degrees, and that's just going to maintain this temperature. In case for some reason you need to redo this, you'll have it ready and all set to pour. Okay, now that these are setting here, I'm going to let the round one just sit, and I'm going to do nothing with that. I'm going to have my two dark and light colors of sugar. The dark purple is going to go right inside the small oval, and there's no sugar, remember, there's no sugar inside that little oval. And I will show you what we're going to do with that in just a minute. Then I'm going to take lighter purple and put it where all of the sugar is. Plop into the isomalt there, the hot sugar. You don't have to cover it completely, what looks good to you. So this is starting to cool as we're doing this, which is what we want. For it to completely set up, this whole process is going to take probably up to 30 minutes. So this round one here on the right hand side, you really just want to leave it alone and don't try to take it out of its mold too soon. So I'm just going to push these lighter pieces into the isomalt, and as this cools, now I'm going to take the middle oval, and it's going to be a stringy, gooey mess, but that's kind of what we want. And this is also why I'm wearing the gloves, because if my hands touch any bit of that sugar, I've got some protection. It'll be warm, but it won't be like hot sugar on your bare skin. So it's a bit of a stringy, gooey mess, but that's okay. What we're going to do is just basically take our fingers and shape that hole. That's the center of the geode. So you're going to have your darker purple towards the center and your lighter purple towards the outside. And you want it to, you know, just kind of visually look at it and eyeball it, make it irregular, don't make it too perfect. Geodes in nature are not perfect, so that's what you're going for. And I'm hoping that you can kind of see this. You'll see it again once I pull it out of the mold, but I've basically just got the two colors in there and a very irregular shaped hole in the center. So we're going to wait this out and come back once it's entirely cool, and I will show you how to finish it up. Okay, we are ready to remove our isomalt pieces. It's been about 30 minutes, and the reason I know they're ready is I have just gently been trying to coax them out, kind of rotating, pushing, not forcing, but slowly cracking them out. You just want to be really gentle. This is the hardest part of the process, is getting them out of here without them breaking. If we had silicone molds, this would be way, way easier. They would just come right out. But I do not have that, so we are working with these metal molds that I have, and we're basically just waiting for them to kind of contract and cool off enough so that the sugar will slip out. So you can kind of hear what they're doing. They're just kind of slowly pushing them out. And if you've done it right and you are successful, you will get this lovely oval piece that has not cracked. Worst case scenario, if it does crack, it's okay. We can fix it. So there is that. Same thing with the base. You're just going to gently go around and ease it out of the mold. And there you have it. So we have both of our pieces. What we're going to do now is glue the white sugar on the outside of this part of the geode. So I'm going to grab my isomalt that has been in the oven at 300 degrees, and that's going to act as our glue. Okay, I have my hot isomalt here, my glue, and all I am essentially going to do is dip small sections at a time into my sugar and then coat the outside of the geode with the white rock sugar. So dip. And coat. Being careful again, wearing gloves, making sure that you are not burning your poor little fingers. And as the isomalt is cooling, you can, shape it and move it kind of like putty to get it exactly the way you want it. You can add and move around exactly how you want it. And continue to do this until we get the entire outside coated in the white sugar. And as you get towards the end, the heat of the isomalt will actually start to warm up the entire piece, so you just want to be careful that your entire piece isn't shaping into this weird thing that you didn't intend. So just be conscious of that. And if you wanted to, you could kind of set it on your mat and shape it that way. Push it, make sure it's flat. That's basically it. So there you have it. There's your little piece, and you can kind of see that it's still moldable because it's still so warm. And then what we're going to do is dip the whole piece and let it set up on the stand. So we're just dipping the bottom and then coming over here and letting it set up. Ideally, if you had time, you could just kind of sit here for a good solid 5 minutes or so, just so that you can be totally sure that it's not going to fold over from the heat and that. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye on this, make sure it's staying put. They also make a freeze spray, which if you have that on hand, you can absolutely use that to kind of speed things up a little bit. But I think we're just going to kind of keep an eye on it and make sure it's staying put. In the meantime, I am going to get my gold ready, and we're going to get ready to paint the outside. So I'm just taking a little bit of lemon extract, not much, and my gold highlighter. Oh, I can see it folding over, so just kind of keep an eye on this guy. Normally I would kind of just let this set up, maybe even pop it in the freezer, but since I'm demoing, I kind of want to just get going and show you guys how to finish this up. So this is the fun part. I'm just going around, painting the outside, just like it were a really beautiful piece of amethyst jewelry. I'm kind of propping this up with my finger in the back so that it's not folding over as I am doing this. So that sugar is still quite warm. And basically just go around and do this until it looks just the way you want it. There's no right or wrong. Check this other side. And then the bottom, I like to go around the rim of the base too. Tends to work a little bit better when the highlighter is a bit thicker. Just a little bit. Get this guy up a little bit more. Once this is completely cool, it will not bend and move and shift like it is. So you just go around the rim, and it just adds just a little bit more brilliance and elegance to your piece. Hope you guys are seeing this and my hands aren't too in the way. I'm going to move him up a little bit more. He is awfully warm. He, as if my little piece is a he. Don't know why. And again, after you're done with your all of your gold, the other colors that I have are just the purple disco dust and the purple luster dust. You can go into any little spaces that you see that aren't quite colored exactly the way you want them, and just cover up any pieces just to make it look exactly the way you want. So this is basically it. You can play with it and paint it just the way you want to make it as perfect as you want. Okay guys, this is your finished piece. I've taken a few minutes off camera, I admit it, I'm sorry, to just, I basically was playing around for a few minutes, coloring and glittering and making it just the way that I wanted it, and I didn't figure you wanted to hang around and watch me do that for however long, because you could spend forever, literally. And I just used some grape luster dust here, some grape disco dust, and you know, the glitter I kind of put around the middle, kind of poked around some of the outer rocks and colors, just shading it the way I wanted, putting more gold where I wanted it. And this is it. This is what you're going to get. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this really cool geode. I can't wait to see everything that you do. I hope to see a lot of geode cake toppers out there on the internet, and I hope to see you soon for another tutorial. Thanks so much for joining me.